Now, if it gets to that point, it's going to be absolute craziness in this country. You can imagine that I think it's going to be craziness no matter what. I don't think no matter what it's going to be craziness at this point. And just in saying all that, let's move into, what we feel like is happening right now. And what we feel like, now, of course, we don't know these things, so we're going to be talking about things that we can verify with our eyes, but we also are kind of trying to understand as we move forward. We know of three lawsuits, so this is all about what's going on in the courts right now. We still believe Trump's going to win. And so for all you out there that are like, man, I don't know how. Well, let us indulge you a little bit. So you have really three lawsuits that are happening right now. You have two civil lawsuits, one through Rudy Giuliani and one through Sidney Powell. Right? Then all you out there is like, oh, CNN done told me they cut Sidney Powell off. They don't like Sidney Powell no more. She was just a terrible person. Slow your horse. I actually had to call Dustin a little bit on it, so I'll have to take a little bit of heat on this too. But if you understand strategy and what tacticians do, it seems to be two different civil lawsuits when I read them. One is really addressing the states and how they broke the law, right? And they're challenging votes inside the states, while the other one is more surrounding the cybersecurity of things, the Dominion voting system. And by the way, if you have not read Sidney Powell's lawsuit in Georgia and Michigan and not went back and look at the 19 affidavits that she's laid out, and specifically two of them that are, bombshells, then that's why you don't know why Trump still has a fantastic shot. But I would highly encourage you to go read those things. Maybe I'll try to post them in a video so you can know what I'm talking about. But you can search them. They're 19 affidavits, not hard. But so there's two civil lawsuits. But then there's a criminal lawsuit, right? There's a criminal lawsuit. And that requires a little bit more. Before I go down that road, do you want to say anything over those two things before I define the third kind of?
No, you go ahead.
Okay. All right. So, so there's a criminal lawsuit that seems to be a little bit less talked about, that seems to be emerging. And the way we know this criminal lawsuit is emerging is we're seeing the way in which Donald Trump is basically, in his last month or so of being in office, is redoing, to say the least, the entire DOD, Department of Defense, right? You have Esper, who has been fired, which kind of came out of nowhere. I mean, most people didn't see that coming. Esper gets let go. Chris Miller's brought in. General Flynn is pardoned. And then, what's his little right-hand man? Cohen. Cohen is brought in. Ezra Cohen is brought in, which some people would say they believe to be part of Q. Just throwing that out there. Just a little caveat for you who follow Q. Ezra Cohen comes in, and he's now a part of the DOD, right? And so you see Trump basically overhauling the whole DOD. Now, why is that important? Right? Why is that important? This is a big picture. You're going to have to go study I don't have time to go into the details of all of it. Well, that's important because of a little thing that happened in an executive order that he signed back in 2018, which most people at the time thought he was signing it to get people with the whole Russian collusion hoax off his back, right? Where he's signing in this executive order for foreign and domestic election issues, which was a national emergency, right? That he signs an executive order over. Well, why that's important is because I don't know if you've been keeping up, but if you haven't, you need to go search. We've seized servers over in Frankfurt, Germany. We've seized servers over in Barcelona, Spain, Dominion voting systems where the CIA, our CIA, has been involved in these conspiracies, right? We've seized these servers in Barcelona, Spain, Frankfurt, Germany. I've heard we seized some in Toronto, Canada. I can't verify that yet, but I've heard we've also seized them there. So why is all this stuff a big deal? So you have Trump, Giuliani, Sidney Powell fighting the battles in our courts, right? And they're trying to get to the Supreme Court. State courts are corrupt. We see that, right? They keep making everybody, if I hear one more person again on Facebook tell me, well, they're losing all these battles in state courts. Yeah, They've won some too, but man, I mean, the way they're losing them, these judges are corrupt. So they're trying to get to the Supreme Court, which we hold a 5-4 advantage there. Some would say we hold a 6-3 advantage, but I don't. Justice Roberts is not a conservative in my mind anymore. I've ruled him out. So we hold a 5-4 conservative advantage there. And they're hoping that the Supreme Court will be patriotic and will see these things for what they are and will uphold the fact that there is absolutely fraud in this election, and that, again, go read the lawsuits. Go look at it. I mean, with anybody that's a reasonable person will look at this and go, there is no way we can trust this election. There's no way. And so they're hoping that the Supreme Court will rule on that, and the legislative body of these states will ultimately choose who the president is going to be, because you can't in these swing states move forward saying that the election was upheld, that you had a vote, right? Because if I say I had a vote in Georgia, but there was 5 fraudulent ballots, well, my vote's been watered down. Right, and so they're hoping that's going to be the path. But if that's not the path, that's okay. If the courts don't uphold righteousness and they are not just, then this third lawsuit is important. Because now they're just going to go, okay, fine. We've seized these servers overseas. Therefore, this belongs, and we have an executive order that's been signed in 2018. Therefore, this belongs in military court. So now the Department of Defense is going to take this on. And we are going to rule on it appropriately with justice and righteousness. Now, if it gets to that point, it's going to be absolute craziness in this country. You can imagine that I think it's going to be craziness no matter what. I don't think no matter what it's going to be craziness at this point, because the left has truly convinced their constituents that there is no widespread voter fraud. And because all they listen to is CNN and MSNBC and the New York Times and all these outlets, that's all they listen to, rather than going and learning for themselves, they believe it. They believe that there's no widespread voting fraud. And so it's going to be a mess no matter what. But Trump has 3 different angles there to win. And if it has to go to the point of military court, he absolutely will win. I don't know what you think about all that.
I think a lot.
Yeah, but that's my understanding of it. And some may go, why do we not see so much in this third criminal case that's being developed? One of the reasons is you got to understand you have the DOD, the DIA, which is the Department of Intelligence Agency, and then you have the NSA, which I just found out is more patriotic than you might think, which the NSA is more collecting information on the American people and foreign powers. It kind of is a little bit more
within the military.
Yeah, it's within the military, so it's a little bit more patriotic. But then you have the FBI, which is utterly corrupt, and the CIA, which you have black hats and white hats, and it's probably 70% black hats, 30% white hats. You have a remnant in the CIA that is still good or patriotic, and then you have a big group of them that are just corrupt to the core. And why is that? Well, over here you have people that have rose up in the ranks of the military. Over here you have a bunch of Harvard, Yale, all those guys that have been indoctrinated in these Ivy Leagues, and they go over to these groups, and they're just kind of told what to believe and how to do things. And it's just corrupt. It's corrupt to the core. Our courts are corrupt. The CIA is corrupt. The FBI is corrupt. The DOJ is corrupt. Right? And so they're trying to see, can we actually get a fair ruling in our courts, or have our courts become so corrupt too? Why is the DOJ not investigating? Because they're corrupt. Why is the FBI not investigating? Why is the FBI not investigating? Because they're corrupt. So you take it over to the military. So Trump has the military and the DOD and the DIA, and they are investigating. And we know they're investigating because the way that they're going about it is, you're not hearing a lot about it, because you don't arrest the guy selling the weed on the street corner, right? You go get him and you bring him in, you pick him up in a van and you sit him in the back seat and you go, hey buddy, I've got you. I've been watching you for a while. I've got you on about, 10 accounts of federal, what am I trying to say? Federal crime, a federal crime. And so I got you for 55 years. What do you want to do? Do you want to tell me who your supplier is, or do you want to go for 55 years? And he's like, hey, dude, he's so-and-so. You can have him, And so right now they're trying to work their way up the chain to be able to get as many people as possible. And I got a feeling that they're not just simply asking. I could talk about other things that I've been hearing, which are interesting. There's a thing called monkey bones or monkey something, and I can't remember the name of it, but it was a cool video I was watching about they kind of monitor air traffic on charter planes in and out of the country, and they've been monitoring charter planes to Gitmo and to Honduras, and the increase in charter planes recently has been off the charts. Well, that might not mean anything to you if you don't understand how the military uses charter planes and how you can't interrogate people and waterboard people on military vessels. It's not legal. But you can go get a charter plane and load up on it and do that after you get over into international waters. You can interrogate that way. And so the guy's saying, look, I'm monitoring these planes my whole life. He's like, make your own theory that you want on it, but the only thing that makes sense to me is that the military is getting these charter planes and they're capturing all these people and they're getting over international waters, and they're like, start the waterboard, and everybody, and he got all these these politicians that they've never even had to dig in the dirt their whole life, and they probably don't even have to bring out the waterboard. They're probably just getting them over international waters and taking the mask off, and they're like, I'll tell you everything. They don't have a tough bone in their body. We're not talking about special forces guys that you're interrogating here. So they're probably spilling the beans as fast as you possibly could. But so all that information, in a very broad stroke of the brush, just take that. And I know Dustin's ready to dive in different areas, but what I'm trying to tell you is Trump's going to win. And there's a lot of outlets that people aren't paying attention to. Okay, so.
Yeah, and just, I guess, to not repeat things that you've said, but just to supplement it in ways, there's definitely perspectives on what's playing out that are different than what you're getting in the mainstream. So if your whole narrative continues to be defined by what the mainstream media says and how they're characterizing the events, you're very lost. You are, and you're gaslit beyond comprehension. So, and that's their intention. It's been the intention the whole time, of course, to be deceiving people and in lots of different ways that we talk about often.
And everything I just said was a conspiracy theory they will tell you quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
But even specifically leading up to the election and everything, to think that Joe Biden, the worst candidate ever, was, even double-digit points ahead of Donald Trump, when in reality, if you watched on election night, you could see that Trump was crushing Biden, and especially in all these swing states. And the media, they had their strategy on election night to keep it out of your mind, to keep Biden ahead on the electoral votes, and then they called the state strategically, and then they
set you up too. They even said, "Hey, just wait till all the mail-in votes come in, and then everybody's gonna say Trump's winning, but then the mail-in votes are coming."
They had a plan. This whole year has been an operation, a psychological operation. But if you see some of the elements of the criminal case in the investigations around the election and what's been alleged,
I think that's where it ends up. I think that'll end
well,
up.
That has to be part of it ultimately, because part of the accusation is that there are foreign entities interfering in our election, and this time there's proof of it, like meaningful, as in actually changing vote tallies and things like that, and so much more. But if you wonder and just try to understand how this is possible, look at what the things we talk about in terms of the impact of Trump's policies the last 4 years and the direction and who that has detrimentally affected. It's actually, been very beneficial for our nation, but the people who it hasn't been great for, number one, is China themselves.
Yeah, China's a big Biden fan. Big Biden fan.
And the whole deep state apparatus of these establishment politicians and the celebrity class, the media class, all in the financial world on Wall Street, a lot of their interests haven't been benefited under Trump. They knew that coming in because Trump was vocal about who our real problems were because of. And so he's kept those promises and made some major decisions that have impacted these people's bottom line. And so if you don't think China has a massive interest in trying to interfere and undermine Trump's gaining that second term, then you're not paying attention, or it's just absurd to think that. So if they couldn't manipulate the media, who they have a significant controlling stake in,
sports,
through in all of media, not just news, entertainment, sports,
who's the
Hollywood.
worst sports? NBA. Who owns the NBA? China.
Yeah, I mean, and all these things, and we could get into all that, but if you just need to see that they have a very profound interest in keeping Donald Trump out of office for a second term. And so where did this virus come from? And then who is the candidate in place to run against Trump, and where do his loyalties and interests lie? If you see that his son has been, putting together deals with 10% for the big guy in place. So Joe Biden.
Who's the big guy?
Joe Biden is China's candidate.